Hey, it's Drybear. I just put out a video going over the best farming locations and methods in the First Descendant, but I'm getting a lot of questions around the void shards in the game, which are needed for a lot of farming activities. So today I'm going to go over all of the best locations to farm void shards. It's a little bit more involved and complicated, the best elements and what you can get for each element, and the unfortunate element that struggles to get a specific void shard. But first, let's make sure everyone's on the same page. To open void fusion reactors, you require a certain amount of void shards. So if you go to a fusion reactor, these you will bring your amorphous materials to and you'll be able to open them for specific loot. So you go to a fusion reactor and you can see on this tooltip here in the very middle, this requires 38 monomer void shards and 7 polymer void shards. These can be found in your miscellaneous consumables. There's polymer void, organic void, inorganic void, and monomer void. And you need a certain number of these in order to turn on a void reactor and collect the loot by killing the boss that comes out of it and also turning in your amorphous material. Now, to get the void shards, you get these by clearing out the void fragments. These are all over all of the maps, and in order to activate these, you need to match the element that it says on the tooltip. So for this void fragment, you need to hit it with an ability that deals non-attribute damage from a specific descendant that does that element to activate the wave-based encounter. When you're done, you will acquire at the very bottom here the list of all of the void shards that it says listed to drop. However, not all void fragments were created equal. So I've made this handy dandy sheet that you can use to reference for figuring out where your best option is for the elements that you have. If you're non-element, you don't have any major gains on the organic, inorganic, polymer, or monomer, and I've highlighted the ones that actually give a lot. So you can see that if you have a fire descendant like Blair or Lepic, you can go to Echo Swamp, Muskhead Swamp, and every time you complete one of those void fragments, you will be able to get 14 organic void shards. It gives you a nice big boost of that, which is great because some of the void reactors require like 30 to 40 or more of a single specific one. So if you're trying to target farm something, it would take you 3 runs of Muskhead Swamp on fire to get the amount of organic that you need, versus if you ran it as a chill doing Sterile Lands Ironworks, you would get 3 per run. So that one would be a lot less efficient. Now, most of these, if they have a high value, they give you anywhere from 12 to 15 total of the void shards. But the kind of shard matters if you're trying to target farm something specific. And I also have to give a very important PSA as well. This is super important because I see a lot of people not realizing this fact and then suffering in their time spent. So this is a void fragment. I'm currently on Ajax, which is a non-attribute descendant, which means that this one is also going to be non-attribute. If I hit it with a non-attribute ability, I will start the wave function. So if I go blue like this, it triggers the void fragment. You'll do 3 waves of this, eventually destroy it, and get the polymer or whatever void shards you're trying to get from this one. However, it has been confirmed that if you do not have the correct element as your equipped descendant, then you will still get loot drops from the mission monsters that are there, as well as the completion. However, you will not get the void shards that come from that, which means that if you're trying to farm void shards, you have to have the attribute that's listed on that void fragment as your equipped descendant if you want to get the void shard materials down here at the additional rewards if you have a matching attribute. And it'll warn you if you don't have a matching attribute. Like if you go up to a fire fragment as an electric like bunny, it will warn you that you're not going to get void shards. So this actually matters a lot in the, not only in being able to farm void shards so you can do void reactors properly, but also so you can get the most value out of your time spent. So from this chart, you can decide based on the descendant that you have where you want to go to farm things. One thing, or actually 2 things that are worth noting here. First is non-attribute doesn't have a large win in any element anywhere. So their highest is going to be 4, 4, 4. You can get a lot of cases that have 4 3s on different ones, but they don't have like a big, huge value add from a specific one. So what you could do is you could just find a nice non-attribute void fragment and farm it over and over with a void non-attribute descendant, get a whole bunch of all of them and eventually stack them all out. But if you're trying to get a specific one, you will need to use an electric descendant, a fire descendant, a chill descendant, or a toxic descendant. The second point, and this is something that I only realized after making this full guide, is that for some reason, there are no void fragments that exist in the game for the toxic element that give monomer void shards. I don't know why this is the case, but if you have only Freyna, or I guess, you know, if you're using Freyna as your main, if you want to get monomer void shards for a specific void fusion reactor, you will have to use a different Descendant in order to get that. Aside from that, your biggest wins are going to be going to Agna Desert mining site as an electric character. So if we click on Agna Desert and then we go over to the area that is the mining site, this one will actually give, it requires electric, but it will give you 14 monomer shards, which is actually huge. So you can just go here with Bunny, you can go here with Sharon, you can clear this and get 14 monomer shards per run. It's 15 overall, which is one of the best in the game. So if you have an electric character, this is where you're going to farm the most monomer shards per run. So that will be triggered by Sharon, as long as you have an ability from a Descendant that can do that proper element. Sharon can trigger this for the Agna Desert. Of course, Bunny can, is one of the primo electric characters in the game right now. For non-attribute, you have a lot of choices of Descendants, and unfortunately all of the non-attribute void fragments, they give 4 of one of the void shards and then 3 of the rest of them. So if you're looking for a specific one, you want +1 on that, you can do Vespers Moonlit Lake for organic, White Gulch Moongrave for inorganic, Vespers Timberfall for polymer, and Agna Desert Mirage Stone for monomer. But yeah, like I said, there's only going to be 4 of one and then 3 of the other 4 for non-attribute, which is, I think, kind of fair, because there are, of course, a lot more non-attribute Descendants than there are of the elemental. You can trigger this effect with an Ajax ability, like the Pulse attack. This one will trigger the non-attribute for the void fragments. Yoon Jin can trigger non-attribute with his abilities as well. For some strange reason, Valby is non-attribute. I feel like they could have just made her chill, but she's non-attribute, she'll trigger it as well. Kyle can also trigger non-attribute as a Descendant, as can Jaber with his abilities on top of that. And of course, Glay can do non-attribute to trigger these void fragments. Enzo can also trigger these. Next, you have 2 great options for fire. If you're looking for organic void shards, you can get 14 from Echo Swamp, Muskhead Swamp. And for polymer, you can get 13 of those from Vesper's Lost Supply Depot. There are less fire characters than non-attribute, but you have great options there, especially if you chose Lepic as your starting Descendant. So Lepic can trigger the fire void fragments to get those for you. SCMO can trigger it as well with his fire or fusion skills. Blair, who shoots a literal flamethrower, can trigger these as well. Next for Chill, Chill is the absolute best at farming polymer, or tied with fire, I guess in that case, in the White Gulch Observatory. However, there is only one Descendant right now that triggers Chill, because Valby is non-attribute for some reason, and that is going to be Viessa. So if you're looking for polymer, you probably want to just go ahead and do White Gulch Observatory, or if you chose Viessa as your first Descendant, you have that option there, but luckily you can still get all of the void shards by farming through Chill. Additionally, Toxic is only one specific Descendant, Freyna, so you can only use Freyna for triggering this right now, but luckily they are the only element in the entire game. If you have Freyna, you can farm inorganic void shards at 13 per run, which is excellent for that, at the Echo Swamp Derelict Covert. So in that area, on that void fragment, you'll get the most from it. However, keep in mind that if you're using Freyna as your main, there's no way to get monomer void shards, so you're kind of screwed there, and with non-attribute, you just have to farm all of them at once. So I think the big takeaway here is, because you get Bunny very quickly as a free part of the story, you've got a large amount of organic and monomer void shards locked down for that for free. If you have a fire character, you get a whole bunch of polymer and organic, and you get Freyna pretty easily as well. You can farm Freyna in anywhere from 30 minutes if you're lucky to a couple hours if you're unlucky. You can get that Toxic there. So you can basically get all of them if you need. I would say that the ones that you don't need the most from the early starting characters is going to be non-attribute or Chill, because you can get around the Chill restriction by using a fire character as part of those options there. So if you're wondering what Descendant to craft next, or potentially picked up from the store, this is going to be a good reference for that. And this is going to be very important because it can save you a lot of time when you're trying to open all of these extra amorphous materials or going to the void reactors and using these void shards. So that's what I got for you today. I wanted to post this out there because I got so many questions on this one specifically. I'll leave a link to this image so you can kind of use it for your reference down below in the comments and in the description, and let me know if there's other guides you'd like to see me cover. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.